So hallelujah, Hyundai's just installed a brand new transmission in the 2026 Hyundai Santa Fe and Santa Cruz with the 2.5 liter turbo. Does this solve all of my former complaints about the dual clutch with this new torque converted automatic? Let's go and drive the two transmissions back to back, give you guys my impressions, and see how much better this new transmission really is. So setting out first in the 2025 Santa Fe Calligraphy, of course, with the 8-speed wet dual clutch transmission, I first want to do a little bit of a launch and acceleration here on this backside road, just to get a feel for how the DCT does from a launch in the Santa Fe, because it's been quite some time since I've been behind the wheel. Then, of course, we'll jump in the 8-speed, take it for a drive, and see just what my general thoughts and impressions are in terms of that new torque converted automatic. So I've gone ahead and put the Santa Fe into sport mode, and we'll just go ahead and do an acceleration. These are not slow by any means, and that's speed. Oh man, this thing's actually pretty darn quick. Given I do own a 7-speed dry dual clutch transmission Hyundai, you can definitely tell a little bit of the similarities and tendencies of the dual clutch. Now, if you guys are new or have not seen some of my 2025 and or 2026 Santa Fe content here on the channel, make sure you check out the dedicated changes video where I go trim by trim, tell you exactly the features that are being gained and or lost across the entire Santa Fe lineup. And of course, the big one is this new 8-speed, which we're going to be testing here in a minute. But just accelerating here with this former dual clutch, of course, this vehicle is pretty much brand new, just 38 miles on the odometer, so its performance should be top notch in terms of the clutch packs and all of its, shifting tendencies and things like that. But acceleration is swift with this 2.5 liter turbo, and I don't expect the new transmission to ruin any of that. I just think it's going to be more refined and smoother feeling behind the wheel. But anyways, right now you find me in actually a combination that you can no longer purchase for 2026, and that is the Serenity White exterior with the forest green and beige Napa interior, which was replaced by the Pecan Brown, which may or may not be the one that we're actually going to be driving in just a few minutes. Now, in terms of other changes across the 2026 Santa Fe Calligraphy lineup, specifically, you did lose the UVC sanitation compartment in the upper glove box. You also lost the passenger side relaxation seat for the hybrid Calligraphy in specific. And outside of that, there was about a $600 to $700 price increase for the Calligraphies and similar amounts across the rest of the lineup. And of course, when you're cruising at speed, you don't really feel the dual clutch transmission, anything like that. Generally, when you're doing stop and go types of traffic, you're needing to pass vehicles with some swift acceleration, the transmission needs a downshift 1 or 2 gears. That's when you really start to feel the difference between a dual clutch and that of a normal 8-speed torque converted automatic. Now, of course, both vehicles should still have the paddle shifters and downshifting manually the transmission. This thing is very quick to respond, and it should be for this type of transmission. But understandably, that might not be what everybody prefers or wants in a vehicle like this. So that's why Hyundai is kind of making this big change for both the Santa Fe 2.5 liter turbo and, of course, the Santa Cruz 2.5 liter turbo. Man, this thing is fun to drive. Holy cow. It's so easy to speed in this vehicle. And of course, if you guys haven't seen some of my 2026 Palisade coverage, make sure you guys check that video out where I did my first drive just a few days ago. And the new 3.5 liter V6, it's a V6, but man, it's hard to get over this quick turbocharged power behind the wheel of some of these vehicles, because it's just way more effortless in terms of its acceleration than that of, a naturally aspirated V6, which is, kind of going by the wayside by a lot of manufacturers, either being replaced by hybrid powertrains or, turbocharged powertrains. And I've had a couple comments asking me here on the channel if the Santa Fe 2.5 liter turbo is faster than that of the Palisade with its V6. And I think that is without a doubt. It has more torque at a lower RPM. And again, when you put your foot down into it, the dual clutch takes a minute to kind of figure out what it's doing, but man, is it zippy in terms of its acceleration. Now, of course, when it comes to dual clutches, of course, coming from a stop is one of the biggest differences you'll feel, in that it just has a little bit of a slight delay as the clutches start to grab and of course you get moving in a forward motion. But it'll be interesting to see, you know, typically when you're just lifting and releasing off of the brake pedal and using the engine idle to start moving forward, the dual clutches don't necessarily like that without any type of throttle application, but of course a normal torque converted 8-speed should just start rolling off the line as you lift off the brake without any hesitation. So it's really going to be the low speed maneuvers and going from a stop that'll be the key differences in that new transmission that I'm very curious to see how it does. But one thing I do want to point out is if you're planning on towing with the Santa Fe 2.5 liter turbo, another thing to consider is that 8-speed is still going to be rated at the exact same towing capacity of 3,500 pounds with the normal trims, and then the XRT gets 4,500 pounds of towing capacity, and it's probably going to tow a little bit smoother as well. I think the 8-speed dual clutch had its time and place in some of Hyundai's other product lineups, such as the Kona N, we have the Elantra N, the Veloster N, the Sonata N line has that transmission, and of course the Santa Cruz and the Santa Fe with the 2.5 liter turbo also got it. And I think Hyundai ultimately was smart to just move on in these two vehicles and see that transmission through in some of those performance options and leave the normal vehicles that, you know, everyday people are buying that just want a smooth, refined driving experience and swap it out in this case. So let's go ahead and head back to the dealership, jump into the new 2026 Santa Fe Calligraphy with that new 8-speed and see how it performs in comparison to this dual clutch. Okay, so hopping in the 2026 Santa Fe Calligraphy, of course, you can see with the new pecan brown interior, immediately just pulling out of the parking spot on the lot, you can feel that it has a normal 8-speed automatic because you lift off the brake, the vehicle just immediately starts to creep forward. And that's just exactly what you'd expect from a normal family SUV with a quite powerful 2.5 liter turbo underneath the hood. But here we are turning out. Oh my gosh. I don't know how to explain this through the camera, but you'll know if you're familiar with the dual clutch transmission and it's just what you're what you've been driving, then you go to a normal torque converted automatic, all of the sensations are just a little bit more smooth. But we'll go ahead and put it in sport mode and we'll just do a launch. Ooh, still got a lot of torque. Ooh. Oh, okay. That's awesome. So on the shift, it still retains a little bit of that snappiness to where once it selects the next gear, you feel the torque really start to throw you back in the seat a little bit. And it's actually very good. It's very crisp on its shifts. There's actually a little bit of a different sound underneath the hood I'm hearing upon first impression with the transmission, but we'll go ahead and put it back into normal mode. We'll see at 65 miles an hour what the transmission's at. So 65 selected. Looks like still 1600 RPM, so gear ratios and all that appear to be either extremely close or identical. I think they're very similar. I mean, maybe it's a hair slower. To the average person, they're probably not going to notice or care if they're even using the paddle shifters for that matter. You know, just here at 60 miles an hour, put my foot down. It goes. I mean, I don't foresee any negative aspects of this in terms of acceleration. Now, of course, we'll have to maybe go ahead and do the launch back there on the side road to see if there is any meaningful difference in acceleration. But no, I would say upon my very first impression pulling out of the parking lot and turning onto this road, I think this is going to be an absolute win for the Santa Fe and the Santa Cruz, especially people maybe that are into towing, did not like the dual clutch in the way that it towed. People who just want a more traditional driving experience but do want the most powerful engine within the Santa Fe and the Santa Cruz lineup. You know, like I've been saying in my Santa Cruz content over the last couple weeks or even the last couple years, I think people have shied away from the 2.5 liter turbo solely due to the transmission. And I think this change might bring some people back into contention for vehicles, you know, with this engine. Oh, I mean, look at that. I mean, I don't foresee it being that much slower, but it still's got the firmness on the shifts, and you get that little surge of torque. Yeah, I like it. I think this is a welcome change. And, you know, I think talking to people who have driven this compared to the dual clutch so far, their first impression is the same. Way more smooth, way more refined, what you would expect in a $50,000 SUV. Does it maybe take a hint of the unique characteristics away from the dual clutch? Maybe. But again, I think the trade-off is pretty worthwhile in the fact that, you know, if you're in a lot of stop and go traffic, or you just don't like the way the dual clutch behaves, or maybe the reliability in the long term, I have no doubt in my mind that the dual clutch has a higher probability of failure than a normal 8-speed torque converted automatic like this one. Just lifting off the throttle there, or excuse me, the brake, and going into the throttle, it's just shifting. It's smooth. You don't even really feel the shifts. So I think ultimately where I'm going to leave off this video is this new transmission is consistent and predictable. As somebody who owns a Hyundai dual clutch, granted not the wet type, which is more robust and more refined from what I've heard, but just driving that Santa Fe, knowing my background and getting into this vehicle, when you give the transmission throttle input, it downshifts into a gear and gives you exactly the power you're expecting. Dual clutches have a tendency to want to downshift. Obviously, they got to like slip the clutches a little bit, get everything matched up in terms of RPM, and then go, which is just a little bit more delayed, in my opinion. Also with dual clutches, of course, traction control and you know, snowy driving plays a role, because with dual clutches, obviously they got to slip the clutch a little bit to get you off the line and moving, which is where a lot of the delay comes from. But when you start to activate traction control, that's where things get a little bit interesting and dicey in terms of the vehicle's performance and wheel speed and forward momentum and all of this. With this transmission, it's going to be traditional. Traction control intervenes, the brakes start to grab, slow the wheel down, transfer power around with the all-wheel drive system, and go. It should be fairly seamless in that regard. So I think when I'm thinking about this vehicle, it's just consistent and predictable. The shifts are clean, they're crisp. You still have the performance nature of the 2.5 liter turbo. Now, of course, I've never towed with either transmission, but I assume towing is going to feel more, you know, again, consistent, predictable, and refined with this new torque converted automatic. So all in all, I think that is basically where I'm going to have to leave this video. I think this is the right change for Hyundai. I expect some very positive feedback from media, journalists, buyers of this vehicle going through the 2026 model year. Maybe we'll get some people trading up from the dual clutch of the past into this new transmission because they love the vehicle, they hate the transmission. This probably solves almost all of their complaints. And again, just cruising here, giving a little bit of throttle, it shifts and it goes. There's no ifs and or buts about it. It just works. There's very little hesitation. There's no weird sensations in terms of transmission slip, you know, RPM matching from the clutches. So yeah, I think this is going to be a very, very positive change for Hyundai, and hopefully you guys think so as well. If you guys enjoyed this video and or found it helpful, make sure to hit that like button below, subscribe if you haven't already. Like I said, check out all of my additional Santa Fe, Palisade, other videos from other manufacturers here on the channel, and I will do a dedicated walk around video on this exact vehicle that I'm driving here, which should be up very, very shortly, if not by the time that this video is up. So you guys can go ahead and check that video out with the new interior and all of the traditional or other shots that I do with this vehicle. But let me know your thoughts on this change for the Santa Cruz and Santa Fe 2.5 liter turbo down in the comment section below. And as always, I hope to see you guys in the next one.